Imagine this: you are a cop and responding to what, in your estimation, will be just another call. Suddenly, before you know it, you're staring at somebody completely beyond edge control, somebody who might take just one more step and end your life in the next second. These are not your ordinary criminals. These are characters so unpredictable and violent that every second might feel like a fight for survival. We're entering the foremost deadly confrontations between cops and some truly psychotic individuals. You might believe it or not, but these moments put not only officers' lives on the line, but caused shockwaves through whole communities. How do you fight and even survive when you are up against someone who has little to lose? The stories you are about to hear are not just intense, but downright terrifying. Every story leaves you wondering how these officers survived or what happens when they don't. Fasten your seatbelts, because things are about to get pretty wild. Let's get crazy. But before that, make sure you've subscribed to our channel. Number 1. Miami Face Eater 2012 The Bath Salts Horror. In May 2012, Miami police received a disturbing call. Rudy Eugene was naked on the side of a highway, savagely attacking a homeless man, Ronald Popo. This attack was no ordinary attack. This man was literally eating flesh off Popo's face. Eyewitnesses reported the gruesome scene. And soon, police arrived to face a situation straight out of a horror movie. Apparently, Eugene was yet another victim of rampant consumption of bath salts, a synthetic drug that induces hallucinations, paranoia, and violence. Upon his arrival at the scene, Officer Jose Rivera saw that Eugene was huddled over Popo, growling and furiously tearing at Popo's flesh. Rivera yelled at Eugene to stop that, but he turned toward the officer and ran. Even after being shot, Eugene continued his frenzied attack, and the officer was forced to fire several times before the threat was finally neutralized. Eugene was killed at the scene, and Popo was taken to the hospital and miraculously survived, though badly disfigured. To this day, the case of bath salts and similar drugs sent shock waves to the world, causing awareness of terrifying effects. Social media sparked fear coupled with curiosity. It became one of the most publicized news due to people being curious to know how law enforcement can prepare for such extreme situations. The psychotic break was blamed on the synthetic drug, but what made this situation really horrific was that his actions were just too unforeseeable. The officers who responded had little choice but to use deadly force, since Eugene was no longer anywhere close to being rational or even restrained. This was an encounter with the pure and frightful face of psychosis, where rationality disappears and danger gets close. Number 2. The Zodiac Killer, a psychological chess game. The Zodiac Killer is one of the most infamous and elusive serial killers in American history, terrorizing Northern California from the late 1960s to early 1970s. Unlike any ordinary criminal, this Zodiac was playing games with the police, sending cryptic letters, ciphers, and taunts to the press and law enforcement, thus making this case a deadly game. While the Zodiac Killer was never caught committing acts directly against the police officers in a confrontation, the psychological war that he fought sparked advanced fear throughout California. He took responsibility for multiple murders and threatened many more, writing letters describing the deeds that he would carry out in the future, all the while challenging the police to capture him. This uncertainty kept the officers under constant pressure. They were always under a need to crack his ciphers to prevent his next killing. None of the efforts finally caught Zodiac, and his manhunt went throughout the country. His last confirmed letter was in 1974, and to this day, no one knows who he really is. Frustrations and haunted police forces that could not bring him into justice. With social media and modern crime forums dissecting every detail of this case, Zodiac's eerie presence has lingered even after decades. He is a true psychopath since he practiced cunningness and manipulativeness. The taunts were meant for both the public and the police, and this showed how cunning murderers with high intellect and methodical acts tend to evade law enforcement. The amount of psychological pressure on the officers involved was massive, as every new letter meant probably another murder. Number 3. Ted Bundy's escape and capture, a killer on the run. Ted Bundy, who murdered at least 30 women in several states, is arguably the best-known serial killer in the world. But many people do not know that Bundy continued his kill spree even after he was caught. In 1977, Bundy escaped from the police custody not once but twice, and both times it led to further violence and death. The first occurred in June 1977, when he jumped out from a courthouse library window during the recess of his trial. For 6 days he was at large until he was recaptured. The second attempt was much more dangerous. In December of the same year, he escaped from the jail by cutting through the light fixture of his cell and crawling through the ceiling. He killed again during this period, killing 2 women and maiming 3 others horrifically at the Florida State University sorority house. Bundy finally met his end in February 1978, when he was arrested after Pensacola police pounced on him with flashing sirens inside a car he had stolen. The capture spelled the end for one of the most horrific periods ever recorded in U.S. crime history. Bundy's friendly, laid-back personality helped play on the psyches of officers and prison guards to prove that this containment relied much more on psychological problems than physical ones. His trial, later sensationalized and highly publicized, continues to dominate these elements to this day. He was a psychopath not only in what he did but also how he used people. His intelligence and charm allowed him to craft an art in lying that enabled him to run twice and keep on killing. It was only during his last capture when the police were able to outwit him. Number 4. David Berkowitz, son of Sam, the killer who teased the police. David Berkowitz, who dramatically became the son of Sam, was responsible for spate killings and wounding several in New York City in the mid-1970s. Berkowitz, writing to the police and media, taunted them for their inability to trace him and addressed himself as the son of Sam. A demon that he said ordered him to murder these people. Berkowitz's random and seemingly meaningless attacks spread fear throughout the whole city, having the entire town on tenterhooks. The taunting letters that he had penned only added to the anxiety, as these were replete with childish game-like words which hinted at deep psychosis. Under tremendous pressure to apprehend him, Berkowitz was relentless and continued his spree to attack young couples parking in their cars. Berkowitz was finally apprehended in August 1977, when police found his car near a spot where another shooting had just taken place. Berkowitz confessed to the murders and received the death penalty, which was later commuted into life imprisonment. This brings to an end one of the worst crime sprees in New York City's history. His exploits and murder were sensationalized in the media and are still now for how he manipulated and terrorized the city through his letters. Berkowitz operated under delusions and deep-seated psychoses. His conviction that he was under the control of a demon made him not only unpredictable but dangerous. The police had to deal with physical danger and psychological stress his letters and taunts had on the city. These 4 incidents demonstrate precisely how dangerous and unpredictable an encounter can become when law enforcement faces psychotic individuals. From horrific physical battles to psychological wars, these cases combine the bravery and resilience of the officers, but reflect on the enormous challenges they met in those life or death encounters. They remind us of that terrifying reality of having nothing to lose and everything to destroy. If you find this video mind-boggling, please do subscribe, like this video and comment your opinion in the comments section. Thanks for watching.